Being part of a SEAL team, you became a savage, especially in SEAL training. It's almost like a primal state that you tap into, right? They make you swallow a microchip that sits in your gut. When you're laying in that cold water, when they finally tell you to come out of the water up onto the beach, when you try to stand up, you can barely even walk. And so they'll put you in that cold water until you're hypothermic, and they'll pull you out and they read your core body temperature off of that microchip that sits in your gut. So they scientifically torture you to the most extreme level that the body can possibly endure.
How would you describe somebody who gets through to the other side of that training?
I think you have to be willing to die for it. Almost every day you're doing something that could potentially kill you, and there's so much out of your control. Guys will start to think, there's no way I can keep doing this. This isn't fun anymore. But the dudes who can tell themselves, I know I can do this for one more minute. Like, I know I can stay here for 5 more seconds. That's a key to getting through SEAL training, to getting through any difficult part of life. The reason that we train so hard is so that we are prepared for life. That's when we have to make decisions that truly matter.
Welcome back to Mulligan Brothers Interviews, and today I sit down with a new friend of mine and an extremely motivating guy, Chad Wright. Chad Wright has an absolutely incredible story, and it's a story of perseverance, it's a story of faith, it's a story of turning your life around and taking dark moments and eventually finding the light. Chad's story absolutely blew me away, and this whole experience actually, going to meet Chad at his ranch, going on their podcast, telling my story, speaking to Chad about faith and the special forces and his running and his mindset, and all these incredible things have had a profound impact on me. This is one of my all-time favorite episodes, and you guys know I don't say that lightly. So please enjoy this episode, maybe with a pen and a piece of paper to take some notes from this incredible guy. The documentary is going to be coming soon too, so please make sure that you're ready to be notified on the main channel. Today's episode, as always, was supported by our Patreon community. We fly around the world to make these happen. It isn't cheap. We have our film crew, we have our documentary cameras, we have absolutely everything to make this happen. We drive across America, we fly out to the US to do this, and our editors and all that kind of stuff costs a lot of money. And we have a great Patreon community who keeps us afloat and keeps making this happen. So I want to say a massive thank you to that. With that support, you can get exclusive access, early access, extra interviews, behind the scenes, much, much more than what you are seeing here on YouTube, extended editions, all with the link down below. So if you want to find out more, head to the link down below. You can get free access right now as well. So thank you to the Patreon community. I also want to say a massive thank you to the whole Chad Wright team, 3 of 7 podcast. If you want to find out about more of what they're doing or watch the episode where I tell a bit of my story, go to the link down below as well. And yeah, thank you guys for always supporting us. It's been an incredible journey so far, and we're just getting the year started with this incredible episode. Let's dive into it with Chad Wright. Usually, just to get started, we just ask yourself to introduce yourself for somebody who doesn't know you. So introduce what you do, your name, and where you're from.
Yeah, my name is Chad Wright. I live in Northwest Georgia. This is where I'm from originally. When I was about 18 years old, I decided I wanted to become a Navy SEAL. Had never even flown on an airplane at that point. And so joined the Navy, and through a long process, finally became a SEAL. I was active duty for 12 years as a SEAL. And I got out in 2019 and began ultra running. I still ultra run, do all sorts of crazy races, and I like long stuff, whether it's running, biking, paddling. And I own a business now, so I'm an entrepreneur. Our business is called 3 of 7 Project. And the foundation of it is we train people. The 3 stands for body, soul, and spirit. 7 is the biblical number for completion. So in all the things that we do and the missions that we host, we try to develop our body, our soul, and our spirit in order to become the most complete version of ourselves. And my passion in life really is teaching. I love teaching people. And that's why that training is such a big part of what we do. You know, we're also on YouTube and all this other stuff, but most of that is just to feed the training part, because man, when you're one-on-one with people, or you have a team and you're there doing something hard with them, it's just a whole nother level, you know?
I mean, there's a lot to dive into this, so I'm going to try and break some of those aspects down. But before you got into the Navy SEALs, or before you even had the idea of getting into Navy SEALs, was there anything that would have led you down that path naturally? Like, was it part of the family? Was it something that was in the community?
No, it wasn't. I had actually never seen a service member in uniform, because, you know, we grew up in a small town in Georgia. I spent most of my teenage years, we lived off of a dirt road, you know, in the middle of the woods. And so I didn't have any exposure to any of that. Now, from a mental toughness standpoint, I had my mother as an example. She was a triathlete, also an entrepreneur, and she was just so strong, man. Like, she suffered through a lot of abuse and trauma in her life. And, you know, we knew, you know, what she had been through, but she always pushed through and continued to grow and took such good care of us. So that's, you know, I had that mental toughness, but I didn't know where I was supposed to go with that, right? So the military, no, it wasn't a thing. Like, it wasn't in our family. I just got to the point that I realized at about 18 years old that I didn't like college. I didn't like school. Like, I barely graduated high school. I had to go around and beg my teachers to change my grades on the last day so I could graduate high school. And they were ready to get rid of me, so they did that for me. And I just realized that the reality was, if I wasn't going to learn some sort of trade or some specialization, some special skill, that I was just going to be working some hourly job for the rest of my life, and I was really going to have to struggle. And that's when the military really first came on my radar. It's like, okay, this is kind of the only option that I have, you know.
It's interesting. I think a lot of people find themselves in that predicament, especially where we're from. It was either construction or military were kind of options for working class kids who maybe didn't have the greatest education or had family that had been through college and university and stuff. So there's some parallels there definitely between people in the UK.
Very similar. Yeah.
So which way do we go first then? So the thing that I was interested in is the construction. You did it for a few weeks. Is that a couple weeks in construction?
Yeah. I worked from the time I was about probably 15 to the time I was 17. I worked on a farm, just doing labor type stuff. And then my first real job was in construction, mixing concrete. And so that's the job that I was working when the military came on my radar. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So then you inquire about the military. Was it straight to, I want to be special forces? Like, did you see something like a magazine or a video or something?
No. So for like country boys in the South, the pinnacle of the military is the Marine Corps. And so that was the first recruiter that I went to, was the Marine Corps. Now, I knew nothing about the military, so I met with this Marine Corps recruiter, and I remember I talked to him a few times, and finally I figured out that there were like different jobs within the military. I thought everyone in the military was carried a rifle and was on the front line. Like, that was the G.I. Joe, you know what I mean? But I began to realize that's not like what everyone does. And I asked this guy, like, well, what do you do in the Marine Corps? And he was a logistics specialist. And I was like, what is that? I was so ignorant. And he's like, yeah, I drive a truck and carry supplies back and forth. And I just thought, oh my gosh, if I join the Marine Corps, like there's a chance I might be a truck driver. Now, don't think that what I'm saying right now, my train of thought was like correct. That's just how stupid I was, like how naive I was. Like, we need truck drivers in the military. Like, those guys do a really hard job. But for me, the whole picture in my head was learning how to fight, and obviously going and killing bad guys. You know what I mean? And so I was like, well, there's got to be some way, some sure route that I will get to do what I think the military is all about. Like, I'll get to actually train and shoot and skydive and all this stuff, right? And so I was working my little job as a concrete mixer at the time, and I pulled a computer up and I was looking up something on the internet, and like an ad banner popped up, and it said Navy SEALs, the hardest military training in the world. And, there were like some pictures of guys coming up out of the water with guns and stuff. And I was like, okay, that looks legit. Like, if I go and do that, like that's what I want to do in the military, right? But I had no idea about Navy SEALs outside of that. That was probably the first time, to my recollection, that I had ever even heard of Navy SEALs.
Wow. Okay. How did your mom get into being a triathlete?
I think that she spent so much of her 20s just taking care of us, like just being a mom. Like, that was her whole life. And so I think once we got old enough that we didn't need so much attention, it just like opened her mind up to, okay, I can actually do something for myself now for once. And that's when she started running and swimming and biking, and that just became her thing that, gave her purpose and challenged her. And I think she found a lot of fulfillment in it,
Usually I save like the mental, the mentality, all that kind of stuff towards the back end. Like, we usually structure the interview, but I'm just curious if we can pick up on this point now. You said your mum went through quite a difficult time period. I've always seen with endurance athletes and triathletes that there is some kind of connection to experiencing or living a tough life, but then also going into endurance sports. Do you think there's anything to that? Like, do you think there's anything to maybe even for yourself, like being out there on the trails? And you said you like long stuff, like hours and hours of stuff. That doesn't tick for some people, that I don't think that clicks for some people, but I've seen sort of, for me, especially as well, some kind of connection with experiencing difficult times or hardships in life.
Yeah, you definitely see that a lot in the ultra running community. You have a lot of ultra runners out there who are former addicts or who have been through, sexual abuse or mental abuse or whatever. And I don't know what it is that, I'll tell you what it is. I think that when you go through like significant trauma in your life, it kind of makes you a little bit crazy. It makes you different than everybody else. And I think you're just crazy enough to go and do these things. Like, you have to be kind of crazy to go run 250 miles, right? Like, if your life is just normal and smooth and mundane, you have no desire. You're just not crazy enough to do it. And that's the only thing I can figure, man. I don't know. People want to say like, oh, there can be healing out there when you're running. And I do believe that too. And I think a lot of people might find that through ultra endurance, especially running. It's just a place where they can go, that their mind can turn off, It's so simple, right? It's just one step. It's just one step. Like that's your whole world is one step. Eat, drink, and move. That's just all your world is. And your mind can kind of relax and heal. I'm sure a lot of people find that. And I have to say, I've probably experienced that at times too. Just a release from, from the complexity of life. I think that's a big part of it. Another thing that I personally enjoy about these really long endurance events is, for me, in this being part of a SEAL team, like you became a savage, especially in SEAL training. They make you a savage, dude, like just this animal that, man, you're just getting after it. Like there's no like politeness to it, and it's almost like a primal state that you tap into, right? And so when you come back, when you leave that and you get into regular life, you can't be that person anymore. Like there's no opportunity in your day-to-day life at the office to be a dang savage, you know? But when I go do these races, it's like all of a sudden this leash of civilized life that's around my neck all the time, they snap that leash off of me, and I just get to go primal again, dude. Like I say what I want, I spit, I crap on the ground, I like just an animal, dude. So something about that, man, I love that, dude. And you can't live that way your whole life, but it's a nice release and a nice escape from like all the civilized aspects of being a part of the world.
Yeah, I think ultra distances, ultra runs is one of the few places you can truly let that out. Like it's incredible that you can, the way you've articulated that.
You have permission to.
You have permission to.
You know?
You can be a mess. You can be crazy up there. Like that's fine. Yeah. It's funny because a lot of the guys I spoke to from the special forces have struggled with that, and that's one of the conversations we've had multiple times. DJ Shipley was speaking about earlier today. He's one of those guys who said that at one point in his life he really struggled with the idea of turning that on and turning it off. When you say they build you to be a savage, like how would you describe somebody who's gets through to the other side of that training?
You have to get through to the other side of that training. I think you have to be willing to die for it. I think you have to be that committed. You definitely have to learn to deal with significant amount of discomfort, physically, and also mentally, from the perspective of like, there's so many situations when you're doing that job that are outside of your control, right? And you're constantly engaged in these really high risk evolutions. Like even say you're skydiving, or you're doing a training dive, or you're running a IAD out in the woods. Like almost every day you're doing something that could potentially kill you, and there's so much out of your control, and like you have to learn to manage that. And so those are some aspects of people that are able to get through that. I think one of the keys is being able to break things down into digestible segments too. Probably the number one reason that guys quit that training is because they try, at some point, things get harder than they want it to be. And it's different for every guy. It could be running, O-course, swim, cold water, whatever. But you're going to hit a point there where you're like, this isn't fun anymore. This is harder than I could have ever imagined it being. And guys will start to think, there's no way I can keep doing this for another 2 hours or for the rest of the day or for another month or 6 months. And like, I think that's the number one reason guys don't make it through. But the dudes who can get to that point and then tell themselves, well, this is really hard, but I know I can do this for one more minute, or I know I can take one more step. Or if it gets really, really hard, like I know I can stay here for 5 more seconds. And you just keep convincing yourself of that over and over and over again. Like I really think that's a key to getting through SEAL training, to getting through any difficult part of life. And if you ask guys, we started out with 300 guys in Bud's class 278. We graduated with, I don't know, just a handful, original class members. And if you asked every one of them, why'd you quit? I believe they would, if they were honest, they would all tell you of a moment when they became overwhelmed by the big picture of what was actually happening to them. And so the way I managed that was every day, my only goal for the day was to make it to breakfast. That was it. So I just went meal to meal, and that's how I managed it. And the morning is always the hardest part too. So if I could make it to breakfast, I was already cold, wet, sandy, but I make it to breakfast, I get a good meal in my stomach. I might as well not quit, right? Because I'm already feeling miserable. Let's just make it through the day.
Just on that point, just to sort of elaborate on it, the guys who are quitting, they could have done one more evolution. You're saying they physically they could do one more evolution, like they would be able to do it, but mentally they can't, in their head, they can't do the picture they've built up, which might be 10 more evolutions, it might be 2 more evolutions. They just, the unknown is something that they're just not able to do.
That's it, man. Yeah, that's 100%. And it's funny, man, you know, because that's just such a metaphor for life, right? Because that is life. Like, you can make all these plans, but if you're honest with yourself, ultimately your reality is you don't know what's going to happen when you leave here this evening. You don't know what's going to happen between now and the end of this interview. Yeah, man. And a lot of people give up on life and take their lives because they just can't handle that unknown, you know?
I think that, yeah, that overthinking of the what ifs, the anxiety that can come from planning 5 years or not having yourself sorted for 5 years can be fixed by, I'm going to get up today, I'm going to wash my face, I'm going to shave, I'm going to make my bed, I'm going to take the right steps this morning to have a good day. People are thinking on that big picture, that big scale of like, I need to have a good life. I've messed up my finances. I'm not in the right place in my business. And it just becomes so overwhelming that they check out.
And anxiety's plaguing our society, man. It's like, anxiety's like a freaking epidemic, dude. So many people are plagued by anxiety. It's, you know, but it's been that way. That's human nature. One of the number one things that Jesus said was, fear not. He knew our nature. He told us over and over again, fear not, right? Don't worry about tomorrow because today has enough worries of its own. Like, he knew our nature, and it's a constant battle against that. But the way you learn, what we're talking about right now is learning to stay present, like be where your feet are. And the way that you learn to stay present and overcome that type of anxiety is through intentional repetition. Like, that's how I became the person that I am today, to where when things get hard, I can get through it because I can stay so present in the moment. But that is my default in adversity because I've done so many things that have brought me to that point that it was harder than I wanted it to be. I didn't want to be there anymore. It wasn't fun. I've had so many repetitions of that and had to make a conscious decision in that exact moment to reel myself back in and focused only on the next step. That's hard at first. That's really hard to do at first when you first start practicing that. And most people don't ever even get a chance to practice that because they don't choose to go and do difficult things in the first place. And because they don't choose to go and do difficult things and exercise that muscle and learn the skill of being present, well, then life blindsides them with something and they're not ready for it and they get overwhelmed and they just give up, right? I mean, that's why the reason that we train so hard is so that we are prepared for life when life happens, because that's when we have to make decisions that truly matter. You know, and that's one of the big gifts out of SEAL training. At a very young age, I got pushed to that point every single day that it was so hard that I had to focus on only the next step. And that just has now become my default. And it stayed with me through the rest of my life, you know?
Is there a way of describing that those tests? Because I know like people talk about it all the time. I think unless you're there, you just wouldn't know. Like you really wouldn't know. But what's the closest description you've heard of the training process?
As far as the mechanics of it, it's 3 phases. The first phase is the hardest phase. Yeah, it is hard to describe it because you know you can do everything. You can read the books, you can watch the videos and all that stuff. But like when you're laying in that cold water and the sand is like filling every orifice of your body, that fine sand that's churned up in the surf zone, and you are so cold that when they finally tell you to come out of the water up onto the beach so that they can check your internal body temperature, you're so cold that when you try to stand up, your hip flexors are locked up and you can barely even walk. They make you swallow a microchip that sits in your gut. And so they'll put you in that cold water until you're, you know, hypothermic, and they'll pull you out and they read your core body temperature off of that microchip that sits in your gut. So like they scientifically torture you to the most extreme level that the body can possibly endure. I guess that's a descriptive.
That's a good picture painted there, yeah. Because I think, I hear you do a 250-mile run, and then you're saying, but doing this, I had to commit to death to do this. Like this was so much more I had to give of myself to become a Navy SEAL. And the idea of that to me, just amplifies how elite you guys are. Like it's kind of, I know what everyone talks about the fighting force, it just amplifies it even more. You know, you're doing 250-mile runs and I'm watching the footage and you're destroyed and you're saying, yeah, this ain't it though. This is still not it. Have you been close before? Have you been close on a trail or an event or anything like that where you've almost had to draw upon the same kind of strength?
Yeah, definitely. That film that you watched, the Cocodona 250, that race definitely was the closest in terms of just difficulty and me having to just pull every tool out of the toolbox to get through that dang thing. That was the closest thing that I have done in terms of difficulty to, first phase of SEAL training. It still wasn't as hard because you didn't have the cold water. And then, yeah, I mean, you have people there that are supporting you, like SEAL training's not like that. Like they're trying to make you quit. But that's definitely the closest I've been. Yeah, that was a hard run, man.
Once you got into the SEALs, when you got to the other side, what was that experience like, realizing you were amongst people of the same caliber as you? Like there was, you all were elite at that point. It kind of, put everyone back down on the same, I don't know, the same level kind of thing.
Yeah. So a couple bad things come from who you become going through that training. Like for me personally anyways, everybody's experience is totally different, obviously, but I had going through that training, and by the way, that was like the first thing I had ever achieved in my life, right? And that's a big achievement for anyone, but that was like the first for me. And I became really, really prideful. Like, okay, now I have my trident, like I'm better than everyone else. And man, that wasn't good. Caused me a lot of problems. I became really prideful, and then getting to the team was nothing like the Buds experience. When you actually get to the team, you're surrounded by a bunch of guys who have been there for a long, long time. And these guys are like, a lot of them are true heroes. But they just seem like normal dudes. They've been doing the job long enough that, they're not full of piss and vinegar like you are when you first show up to the team, And it was a big shift for sure. Like when I first got to the team, SEAL Team 8 was out on a deployment, and for like 2 months, I sat in a closet and wrapped paddles with 550 cord, paracord. That's what I did like the first 2 months at the SEAL team. I was pissed off about that too. Yeah, for sure.
Is that like an initiation? Is that like, earn your stripes kind of thing? Are they putting you in that situation just to...
Yeah, they do. I think they intentionally do that because they know guys like me are coming out of that training pipeline, and we're so prideful. Like we think we're ready, and we're so hungry to get after it. And they're like, no, we're gonna knock you down a step, because you can't learn when you're that prideful, and when you get done with SEAL training, you still have a lot to learn. I mean, part of the SEAL creed is your training is never complete. So you still have a lot to learn, and they know you're showing up, and you're not even in a mindset that they can even teach you the things that you need to learn. So yeah, they knock you down for sure.
I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. But it's interesting how there's so many different processes, unofficial or official, that lead to you being this elite fighter. Once you was at that level where you felt, looking back with hindsight, you felt like you was, I guess, ready. What's that mindset like? Like, what is that? You're in one of the most elite training fight forces in the world. How do you balance the ego? How do you balance being out there and doing the mission? Like, are you able to sacrifice the ego and let go and just focus on the goals in front of you? And what's the mindset of the SEALs when you're on deployment or on a mission?
So I can only speak for myself, but I didn't balance anything. I went full into, that ego and that pride and like, I didn't care about anyone, dude. Like, I didn't balance anything. Like, from day one of SEAL training for years and years, all the way, to the team and stuff, like, I didn't care about anyone. I didn't care about relationships. I didn't care about doing anything that, that I used to enjoy doing. So, I was just full into it. And it's just it's your whole life. It's your whole entire life,
Is that what it takes to perform at that level?
No, I don't think so. I think that I just wasn't mature enough to do anything else. Like, I didn't know any better, It's wild how you can be 19 years old and be in that position. Like, you are not ready. You don't understand anything at 19 years old. And here you are in this position with all this training and with all this, you know, clout, and you got a big trident and the world thinks you're the best thing since sliced bread, you know, and I couldn't wield it, man.
Did you ever throughout your career?
So no, I mean, like my attitude destroyed me, dude. And that nothing changed until I received the gift of salvation in 2012. And then all of a sudden, everything about who I was changed. Like all of a sudden there was this real purpose that was like real. You think your job in the military is you think that's not, I mean, all that crap goes away, you know, like it's not going to last forever. And so, no, I didn't. I was very destructive to myself and everybody around me until I received the gift of salvation.
I've been getting tons of messages asking about my health protocols ever since I did the world's heaviest marathon. The experience took a toll, and getting back to optimal health has been an absolute journey. That's where Marek Health have been absolutely essential. Their approach is beyond quick fixes. It's about long-term health and performance. They work with medical professionals to create personalized, evidence-based plans tailored to your needs, using pharmaceutical-grade treatments and cutting-edge diagnosis. Whether it's TRT, peptides, supplements, or like me, getting full health analysis to get you back on track, Marek Health provides everything that you need. And it's not just for athletes. If you're an entrepreneur or businessman like me, you might want that renewed focus, clarity, and energy. That's where Marek Health can get your brain performing at its peak. From comprehensive blood work to customized health plans, Marek gives you the tools to optimize your life. If you're ready to take control of your health, go to marekhealth.com and use code Mulligan for 10% off. The link's down below. I can't recommend them enough. And if you just wanted to get started, I would go and get your blood work done. Go get assessed, find out where they can help you. Use the link down below for 10% off using code Mulligan. Let's dive back into the video.
So you get to this point where are you coming to the end of your career? Is it like, how did it line up where you found the gift of salvation, and then are you medically discharged? You have is it something to do with your ankles or knees or?
No, it's a whole kind of array of things, but the primary things, as far as the discharge goes, the primary thing was blast overexposure. So I was a breacher, and I taught a weapon system called the Carl Gustav that really shocks your brain. You're not supposed to shoot it, you know, so many times in a day, and I far exceeded that for a long, long time. And I realized that my balance became really, really off, to the point that I would be out walking around at night on night vision, like doing a training op or something, and I would fall to the ground. I was having trouble driving at night. And so I finally went to the doctor, and they just sent me down this freaking rabbit hole of, you know.
Was it CTE? Is that what it was classified as? Or?
They call it TBI, traumatic brain injury.
So when you was outside of the military, you was back home, were you getting some of the side effects like anger and trauma and all those kind of things? Because I think like I can't remember who I spoke to, but they'd spoken that that's something that they'd experienced themselves.
Yeah, it affects and almost everybody who does any sort of special operations job, like they're going to get traumatic brain injuries. But it affects everyone's brain differently. So some people, from what I know of it, their brain can obviously take a lot more punishment than other people. And also the side effects of it are different from everybody, are different for everybody. So some guys, yeah, it does like cause big shifts in their personality and all this stuff. I would say from a mental perspective, probably the way it's affected me is it is difficult for me to handle stress at the level I used to could handle stress. And, you know, you've been out here, you've seen me, you've seen the way my life, I've built this lifestyle so that I minimize stress. because I cannot handle stress at the level that I used to be able to. And that frustrates me. And I don't make excuses. Like it is, I don't ever even talk about this, you know? But that's the truth. And that's why I've built a lifestyle that I've built, you know? So other than the physical aspects of it, that's really the major kind of mental thing that I can point out. You know what I mean? But to be honest with you, I got tired of going down that rabbit hole, man. Like I got so sick of going to doctors there at the end of my career and them, oh, this might be wrong with you. Let's do this test. Oh, with this diagnosis. Oh, this medicine. Oh, like I got so sick of it. Like I just quit going. Like, and once I got out, I'm not going back to the doctors unless I'm dying. So,
Did you find faith and ultra running at a similar time, or was it?
no, I didn't. In 2012, I was on my second deployment. We had deployed to North Africa, and we did some work in North Africa. The embassy got attacked there. And then we left there and we came actually back to Germany, and we were staying in basically an abandoned barracks. A barracks is a building with a bunch of rooms in it. And while we were staying in this barracks, we were basically rejocking our gear and we were going to go to a different location. So this was just like a site where we could, you know, fix our gear, resupply, all that stuff. We were only there for a week or two. But while we were in there, it was me, a guy was staying in the room with me, and then I had two other guys in a room across the hallway. There was nobody else in there. And I woke up one night, something slammed into my door, and I could hear voices echoing up and down the hallway. And I was immediately very afraid, which is strange. I don't know, you know. Yeah, it was weird, but I wouldn't generally be that afraid. But it was super eerie. Like there was this fear attached to it. So it jolted me awake. All my guys were asleep. I checked. Nobody was in there. And after that, there were some other noises and things moved, but there was just this presence of fear and really evil in this place that we were staying in. And even the guys that I was with, they were experiencing it. And we actually talked to some of our guys that had done the same thing. They had come back from a location and stayed in that same barracks before they went out, and we would reach out to them and they were like, yeah, there was something in there that was freaking me out too. And it got to the point that like we couldn't sleep at night, and I didn't know how to fix this problem. And I called my little brother back here in the States because I knew that my little brother was a Christian. And I said, will you help me with this? Or do you know how to help me with this? He put me in touch with his pastor. And the next day his pastor calls me and I'm telling him what happened. And the pastor's like, oh, that's no big deal. I'm like, are you serious, man? Like, we can't sleep at night. Like, this is not fun. He's like, just put me on speakerphone and walk around this place as I pray. And so I walk around this building up and down the hallways. Luckily, none of my other teammates were there because they would have thought I was crazy. I thought I was crazy, but I was kind of at the end of my rope with this, you know? And so he's praying as we walk around this place. And after he did that, total peace returned to this place. Like there was no longer that presence of fear or evil, no more like weird noises and crap. So whatever it was, that I don't understand even what it was or how it was there or why it was there or what was causing all of this. But after he did that, whatever it was left. And so that's when I realized, okay, this is like legit. Whatever this guy did, it made an impact. You know, he had authority, obviously. And that's when I found and picked up a Bible and started reading it seriously for the first time in my life, just to investigate, what's this all about?
So yeah, what did you find once you started reading the Bible? Like, what was you finding?
So I started in the book of Matthew, and you very shortly in the book of Matthew get to the Sermon on the Mount, which is a long sermon that Jesus preached at the very beginning portion of his ministry. And in that sermon, one of the things that Jesus is doing is he's laying out God's standard for what is good, essentially. And as I'm reading through that, I'm thinking, well, if this is really the things he's saying, like radical things, like if you look at a woman to lust after her, you've essentially committed adultery, and like there's all kinds of radical things in there. And when you begin to read that and you think, okay, is this all, like, this is an impossible standard? You know what I mean? And as you continue to read, you realize, yes, God, the true standard of righteousness is impossible for any human to achieve. None of us will achieve it. But that's the whole reason for Jesus. And so by time I had gotten through the book of Matthew, I kind of had the whole picture of like, okay, now for the first time in my life, I get it. Like, I thought I was a pretty good person, but then I read this beautiful standard of what is good, right? Like perfection. It's a beautiful standard. It seems ugly to us when we read it because it makes us realize, oh crap, man, I'm screwed. So by the time you get to the end, you realize, oh my gosh, I'm screwed. But now this is what the gospel's all about. I realized that for the first time in my life. Well, that's the reason that God sent Jesus, is because I can't meet that standard. And it's his standard. And he's God. So it's up to him what the standard is. It's like, that's the reason he sent Jesus, is because I'm screwed. And that's the reason Jesus went to the cross. He took all of that, all of the mistakes of all of humanity upon himself. And he paid that. A lot of people see the crucifixion of Jesus Christ simply as a crucifixion. As ugly as a crucifixion is, that's a terrible way to die. We don't understand what happened at the cross. It was not so bad because he was crucified. It was so hard for him because he took all the sin of the entire world upon himself in a single moment. And he sacrificed himself to cover all of that for us who will believe in him. And I saw that for the first time, and the beauty of that message, man. Like, the beauty of that. There's nothing else like it. When it becomes real to you, like when you see your need and you see why he came, lived, died, and then you realize he was also resurrected. And those of us who, depend on his sacrifice to make us justified before God, now we're not only forgiven, but we have an inheritance with him in eternity because he didn't stay in the grave. He was resurrected. And so I don't know how. Look, man, all I can tell you is that I saw that for the first time in my life. My need, the beauty of the message of the gospel, that God so loved me that he gave his son for me. And I mean, I just one night was like, Lord, you're my Lord. Like, I understand your gospel. I'm going to trust in what you did for me. I'm going to have faith in you, and I'm going to relinquish, whatever control I actually even have. I don't know. But I'm going to allow you to do your work in me and to use me. And I woke up the next morning after I did that, and this miracle had happened. Like, I didn't want to watch porn anymore. I had the desires of my heart changed in an instant. Like, I didn't want to watch porn. I didn't want to cuss. I didn't want to go out and get hammered drunk. These are all things that I was doing on a daily basis, right? Like, I didn't want to do all of these ugly things, really. The best way to describe it to you is, we got some pigs up here, right? Okay. These pigs, if you brought a bucket of garbage up there on that hill, and then you brought a plate of the finest food up there on that hill, and you set that plate of the finest food and that bucket of garbage down in front of that pig would go and stick his head in that garbage. And he would eat that garbage before he ate that fine plate of food. That's just the way a pig does. He likes the way that garbage smells, right? He's going to put his head in there and he's going to gobble that freaking nasty garbage up. But if you made that pig, if you could turn that pig into a man, all of a sudden he would lift his head. That pig's transformed into a man. There's some things a man can't eat. The man would lift his head out of that bucket of garbage and he would say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm eating this garbage when I got a fine plate of food sitting right here. And he's probably going to vomit, and he's going to be ashamed of all that garbage he's been eating. And he's not going to want the garbage anymore. He's going to want the fine plate of food. And so that's kind of a good analogy. I was that pig, right? Like, constantly just filling myself with this garbage. And all of a sudden I was made alive and aware of the garbage I had been eating. And I pulled my head up out of that garbage and I was ashamed and I wanted to vomit, and I didn't want the garbage anymore. That's the best way to describe how I felt the next day when I walked into the platoon hut and my guys are there and they're like, what the crap's wrong with you, man? Like, within a few hours, you talk different. You want to talk about different things. You what happened? And so that's the closest analogy. It's a miracle. I didn't decide to do that. Like, I was totally in. I loved the garbage. I loved it. Like, I didn't decide to stop doing that. That wasn't some mental discipline or choice that I made. It's a miracle, man. And yeah, that was 2012. So it's been a 12-year-long journey from that day to now, where I'll go back every now and then, especially over the course of that journey. And in the early years, I'd go back every now and then and try to sample some of that garbage, right? But I would immediately feel it in my heart, like, man, it would hurt. You yell at your wife or something, and, in the past, you yell at your wife in anger, and you would want to come up with a reason to justify what you did. But now, you yell at your wife in anger and you're like, no, I want to repent of that. I need to go ask her for forgiveness and not try to come up with some story to justify the way that I feel, because that was wrong. You know what I mean? And so it's been a process of being sanctified over the last 12 years. And that process never ends, you know. The flesh is always in a battle against the spirit. There's always a rub right there. As long as we're still in this flesh, there's always going to be this rub, right?
Do you remember a moment before that where there might have been signs, you know, looking back now, that there might have been signs that, I don't know, that you were trying to find enlightenment, or it was trying to find you?
So I don't remember. So what I believed, so I guess you could have said I was agnostic before all of this happened. I you know, thought that there was probably some sort of God. I mean, you can't look at everything that's happening out here and not think that, okay, there's some intelligent design to all of this. Like there's something behind all of this, holding this all together. I've never been able to accept that all of this just came accidentally by random chance. I think that takes more faith than to believe there's a God, personally. Not putting anybody down who believes that. I mean, I get it, you know, but I thought that, okay, if there is a God, like I'm a pretty good person, and I'm fighting for my, you know, I'm serving my country, right? Like I'm doing a good thing, I'm doing a good work. Surely he'll send me to the good place if I die. So that was kind of my belief. And then again, you read that standard of righteousness in the Sermon on the Mount, and you're like, oh crap, nah, I'm not really that good compared to this, you know. But I don't remember any signs, you know. Now there were people, I learned later on that they're like, my little brother had been praying for me for years, like pleading with God on my behalf, you know. And how much does that play into it? I don't know.
Just a quick interruption from the video. I want to talk about our paid partnership with BetterHelp. As you guys are aware, I've always been super open about my mental health, anxiety, depression. For a long time, the way I would deal with that is by burying those emotions, working really hard, running hundreds of miles, and burying those feelings deep down inside. That's why over the last 2 years, I have stuck to online therapy. Weekly online therapy, and it's been absolutely incredible. It was a massive weight off my shoulders. I know I'm not the only person who feels like this, but sometimes it can feel like you are, and you can feel super alone in that anxiety, that depression. And then we have to add the mix of social media in there. For somebody like myself, I'm on social media all the time for work, but so many other people look on there and see these highlight reels of people's lives that's just not true reality. All of these things can be super overwhelming. For a lot of people, we decide to keep it to ourselves. We think we can battle through, we can push through. That's why I turned to online therapy, and you can too with BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a credentialed therapist who can help navigate whatever you're going through. It's an online platform, so you can do your sessions from wherever feels comfortable. And if the first therapist isn't a right fit, you can switch at no extra cost. Most people using BetterHelp are looking for support with anxiety, and 69% report improvement after just 6 weeks. Therapy helped me shift my perspective, process things in a way I couldn't do alone, and actually start feeling lighter. If you've been thinking about therapy, this might be the right sign to give it a go. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/Mulligan Brothers for 10% off your first month of therapy. Let BetterHelp rule your anxiety, so anxiety doesn't rule you. Let's get back to the video.
At what point did you find the ultra running? So amongst, you know, all of this, did you ever find running, obviously you trained for the special forces, but long distance running, was that ever a present with your mum around and stuff?
So I was always a good runner. The first long run I ever did was with my mom. I wanted a new backpack for school, and she made me go do an 8-mile trail run with her. You know, I was pretty young. So, yeah, I've always been a good runner. I've always enjoyed running. And even all through buds, like I was one of the best runners in my class. Nobody knew it. I never tried to like stand out. I never tried to finish first at anything in buds. It was a selection process, right? So I just wanted to keep my head down, middle of the pack, just be consistent, right? And so nobody knew it until one day I used to chew tobacco back then, and there was another guy in my class who was also a really good runner, and everybody knew he was a good runner. And I spit a big spit of tobacco on his boot one day. He had just polished his boots, and I just did it to piss him off. Spit a big spit of tobacco on his toe of his boot. And the next morning I woke up and he had filled my boots up with sand. So nobody likes putting boots on first thing in the morning that are full of daggone sand. And we went out that morning and we had to do a chow PT, which was a run up a long hill called Al Huey. And the guy was there. We were like ready to fight each other. And he challenged me to a race up Al Huey for chow PT that morning in front of the whole class. And of course, the rest of the class is laughing. They know this other dude's going to win because Chad's, just the middle of the pack guy. And we took off and I like destroyed him. Like I said, okay, it's time. I'm gonna like show my skill at running. And I beat him up Al Huey, like crushed him. And from that point forward, I always knew I was good at running. And when I got out of the Navy, I knew I needed something, like I wanted something that was going to challenge me still at a high level. And so running just kind of fit because I had some natural talent there. And ultra running was just kind of growing. There were a lot of new races coming on the scene. And I thought, I enjoy running. I'm pretty good at it. I know it's going to be hard. It's going to give me some purpose, just for in day to day as far as training and stuff like that. Give me something to train for. And that's I just flowed right into it.
Do you remember the moment you fell in love with this, like the sport element of it?
So it definitely wasn't my first race was a 50 miler. I had never ran any races before. So my first race ever was a 50 miler. I don't think I fell in love with the sport of it. I fell in love with the nature of it on my first race because it crushed me. Like it just crushed me. And I was like, holy crap. Okay, yeah, this is what I wanted. Like this is hard. And then I didn't really fall in love with the competitive aspect of it until one of my friends who I was actually in the Navy with, he came to me and he ran that first race with me. And he was like, Chad, you could start winning some of these things. And when he told me that, I was like, okay, now let's focus on actually training and winning these things instead of just trying to survive them. And then, once I did that and I went and I won some races, I really started to enjoy the competition aspect of it, like being in the front of the pack and battling it out with other runners. And then probably like the pinnacle of all of my running was at a last man standing race. That became my favorite format to run, is last man standing. Because I don't like to run fast. Like I can run fast, I can train that way, but I like to go long, and I like to be able to get in other people's minds. Like I can make it a game. And with a last man standing race, you're running the same loop over and over again. So you're with the same people every loop, you're with the same person, you're with the same people. And so I just love it, dude. I just play so many games with guys. I'll see a dude and he might look fine, but I'll say, hey man, it looks like you're limping a little on your left leg. Like, are you feeling all right? And he'll be like, no, I think I'm fine. Well, a few laps later, the dude will be limping. on his left leg. And like, he didn't hurt his leg. I just planted that seed in his mind that there's something wrong with his left leg and he's limping. And it actually like becomes his reality. It's wild, man, how powerful the mind is. And a lot of people would say, well, Chad, that's not very sportsmanlike, and that's not, that's not inspirational. But man, in competition, you're trying to win. You know what I mean? You're trying to win. So I love that, being able to leverage all those, little mind spoken word and not giving your pain a voice, and then leveraging those things against my competitors. And so that became kind of the pinnacle for me of ultra running, was that last man standing. And I won 2 of those races, the mid-state mile, back-to-back years. And that's my favorite format to run.
I'd love you to speak to that, like the savagery of competition, because I do think there is a ever-growing voice at the moment, like, oh, you shouldn't be like that. Like, it's, we're all competing together, and, this kind of like participation medal kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Whereas I see the value massively in the savagery of like going to war with people mentally, physically, in a space where you can allow that to happen, like a run, or a fight, like a boxing match or a Muay Thai fight or something. Like there's these situations where we can go do that, and maybe your ego gets hurt a little bit, and you might get some injuries, but you can really go to a mental place of taking people down if you want to. Could you speak to that? Because I think we are getting softer voices coming through at the moment, and maybe perpetuating that a little bit more.
Yeah, people really don't. People, like you said, they really don't like that. Like so like even that film that came out about that race, the Just 1 Mile. There's a full documentary on it, and a lot of people that watch that film, they actually hate me, because the film shows me doing that. You see me doing all these things on the film, and so I have gotten like hate from that. And but dude, that competitive drive, like, that is why people win. Like, you are not going to win if you just want to play nice. Like, you're just flat out not going to win. Like, even in you can. So I was running actually yesterday with the biggest mentor in my life since I've been out of the Navy. His name's Jesse Itzler. You guys should do a film on him one day.
Incredible guy.
Yeah. So I was running with Jesse yesterday, and I was like, Jesse, man, like, I'm at a place in my business where, like, when you first start out, you're really hungry. Like that competitive drive is there, right? But then as you go and you build the thing that you had set out to build, you get to this point when it's all built and you're like, okay, well, now why do I keep going? You know what I mean? And Jesse told me, he was like, you need to look at what you're doing now, at the point you are now, as a competition. Like, you need to figure out how to make your training better than everybody else's, your podcast better than everybody else's. Everything you do, and there's a lot of places that we can improve. Like, things are just running fine right now. Well, again, we're bringing this to real life, to business. Like, things are just running fine. We could just let them keep rolling, right? But when you stop thinking about things as a competition, like, you're not going to keep going. You're not going to keep improving. You're not ultimately going to win, right? And so he told me that yesterday. He was like, you're a competitive guy. Like, why aren't you need to get that competitive drive back, and you need to apply that to every aspect of your business. And that's going to give you a reason to keep doing what you're doing. And it really resets your mind and makes you think, okay, yeah, I've built something, but I haven't really built what I set out to build yet. I have a long ways to go. And so that man, just thinking about things in that way and not backing down from that competitive nature that, I have in me. I don't guess everybody has it, but it's a key to success. Like all the races I've won, there's no way I would have won if I wouldn't have set out to crush everyone else there. Like everyone who wins an ultra marathon, they don't win by accident. They win because they show up and whether they will tell you this or not, their ultimate goal is to crush everyone else there. And that's a mindset that you have to be at the top, and to stay at the top.
Yeah, I say to my brother, you need to keep your teeth sharp. Like you need sharp teeth. And
Yeah.
I think if you're as you get more success and you get closer maybe to that original goal, sometimes for some people that those teeth go a little bit dull.
Me?
Yeah, it happens. It does happen. Yeah.
I'm not afraid to admit it, man.
Yeah. But the generation coming through, do you have any opinion on that? Like, I don't want to give them stick because I think there's some incredible entrepreneurs, athletes, and people coming through at the moment. I do have to lean towards it's getting softer though. Like I do feel like the generations are getting softer. It's not the same. There's not that ruthlessness in competition. There is a lot more participation and inclusion, which is great at certain levels. But when we're talking about being at the top and wanting to be the best, and maybe even trying to inspire children to have that, like I don't think that should be part of the vocabulary. But I'm curious. I've heard you speak about what it means to be a man and things like that, and we'll get onto that. But do you have any opinion of the generation that's coming up at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, my opinion is it's not their fault. It's the parents' fault, right? So like, it's not this generation is just all of a sudden softer. It's the generation prior to them. It's our generation essentially are the ones who got soft, and that's now just bleeding over into young people, man. Yeah, it sucks. But yeah, it's the parents' fault for sure.
Okay, speaking to that young guy who maybe has been led slightly astray, what is it to be a man? Like, what does it mean to be a real man?
I would say the primary attribute of someone that I look at and I'm like, that's a man right there. I look up to him is selflessness, which is crazy to think about. Like, selflessness is the hardest thing to do as a human being. Like, that's the hardest thing to do, is to put the well-being of other people who you're responsible for, who you should love and care for, like to put their needs and desires and their well-being above yourself. Like any man who's able to do that, like a man who puts his wife before himself, his children before himself, like that is like the ultimate achievement. You know what I mean? Sure. And a man that can do that consistently over time. Yeah, selflessness. It's the number one thing that you would look for in a teammate, in a SEAL team. It's the number one thing that, women should look for in their future husbands. It's the hardest thing to do, Yeah,
do you think it's against our natural instinct?
It is.
It's slightly beyond survival, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely against our natural inclinations, and I don't even know that we have the ability to become selfless without the help of God. I'll speak for myself, anyways. I don't think that I had the ability to even grasp what it looks like to be selfless, or let alone how to even actually act that out without the help of what we call the Holy Spirit of God, which is living in us, you know.
I do think it takes something more, to share.
Because you're going against your nature, right?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And to do it truly selflessly is another thing as well. Because you can do it. I think a lot of people do things selflessly, but there's a mental note or a marker against somebody's name. There's an expectation to receive back. You know, truly giving without expectation rarely exists. I think I had this. You know, we spoke about Erwin McManus. This is the exact conversation I had about him about truly giving without expectation is a very rare thing. To do something for somebody and walk away without anything in return, or not even that sort of thought process in your head, I think is that is a special thing to do. Like, I think
you can't do something that you don't want.
Mm.
Like, what we're all doing in life is we're acting out our desires. It's impossible for you to do something that you don't want to do. Like, you won't do it because you don't want it. So what has to change? Something has to change your desire. Something has to change what you want.
That makes perfect sense.
That's what I mean. That is what the Holy Spirit does. He comes in. I told you, you go from a pig to a man, changes what you want. That's the core of it all, you know?
When you're doing the runs, how are you balancing what you want out of that situation versus serving as well?
So me personally, with my running, it has always, and I can honestly say this, it has always been about the bigger purpose behind it, of being able to create this content, or to be able to create a story that I can share with people, or you know, build a platform that we can, you know, help people off of. You know what I mean? Like, for me, that's really what running's always been about for me. Why do I want to win the race? Well, I don't want to win the race because I can say that I won this race. Like, I don't even have any medals. Like, every 100 miler you finish, you get a belt buckle. I give all my belt buckles away to whoever crews me at the race. Like, I have 0 belt buckles. I have 0 medals. Like, none of that crap means anything to me. Like, I want to go and win the race because, dude, we're creating this film, and like, it's on me to push, to win, to do well, so that it makes the film good, so that, you know, people are going to watch this and they're going to take these lessons away from it, right? Now, that's just me. Like, my buddy Chili was the exactly opposite. Like, Chili, he ran, and he'll tell you this, he ran for a long time, all for him. You know what I mean? But I'm lucky, by the time I started running, I was far enough in my journey and mature enough that even from the very beginning, I always made that as about something bigger than me. I'm only just using the conduit for, the run is just the conduit to tell a story, to teach a lesson, to create something inspiring. That's all it is. It's just the conduit that we use. It's the medium that we use.
I've always said this, documentary film is like the most powerful medium. Like, I think it is really, you know, it has everything, you know, that people can really buy into. I think it's such a great way of telling a story and getting people to have a shift in their lives.
But you can't suck and make a documentary, you know what I mean?
Well, that's my next point, is that let's say the cameras weren't there, writing those stories to be able to tell people, having those experiences and learning those lessons for yourself to be able to teach people. How important is it for people to be able to go out there and live their life? I think Joe Rogan did a really good, he did like a talk on this, but it was like, live your life as if a documentary film crew is following you. Like, do that. And if you're at the part where it really sucks right now, great, because that's life. And like, now you're gonna have the rise and like see this crew following you and live that way. And I've always said that as well, is like, we should live our lives as if we are trying to tell a story. Like we are, we're trying to find these lessons. And I guess that speaks on to doing hard things. What's the importance of, it doesn't have to be a run, but like going through obstacles, stepping outside of your comfort zone, especially in a world where we can choose the comfort zone whenever we want. Like, why choose difficult when I could sit on the sofa, chill out, eat an ice cream, watch TV?
Yeah. Well, you might be able to do that right now. You might be able to choose comfort right now, but there's a time coming for all of us where we're going to lose a loved one. We're going to get a bad diagnosis. Our business is going to fail. We're going to have problems in our marriage, big problems. And ultimately, there's coming a time for all of us where we are going to have to go through the process of dying, which is like the final finish line. I want to die well. Like when I die, I want to die well. If I get the opportunity to, So the importance of doing hard things is because don't lie to yourself. Life is going to get hard for you. If it hasn't yet, it's coming. Something is about to blindside you. We do these hard things intentionally so that we are prepared to make the right decisions in that moment, to be the person who we're called to be in that moment, to set the example for everyone around us in real life who's watching us and how we react to this hard thing, to set the example in that moment by making the right decisions. You will not make the right decision in that real life moment, that real life catastrophe. You will not make the right decision in that moment if you have not prepared for that moment, and you don't get to try again. There's no redos. That's why we train. It's intentional repetition so that we are making the proper response to adversity our default reaction, so that when it happens in real life, you don't even have to think about how you're going to respond to it. You just respond to it in the way you've been training to respond for hundreds of thousands of reps and thousands of hours. I've trained for this one moment when somebody I love gets sick. When I get sick, when I'm laying on my deathbed and I'm surrounded by my loved ones, but I'm prepared for that. I'm prepared to endure that discomfort. I'm training for those moments, I mean, that's really the foundation of it all, really,
So true. Like I feel like if I had not had some kind of sports to be obsessed with when I was growing up, I wouldn't have got through some of the things that I had to face. And I think it's hard for people to conceive that life will hit you on the blind side, but that genuinely is the nature of life, especially when you get comfortable. It's usually when it gets you the most. That's what the blind side is. You're just not expecting it.
That's why so many people are struggling right now, man, because like for thousands of years, life was just hard every day. You didn't know where your food was coming from. You didn't know that you were exposed to the elements. It was hard just to live, man. Right? So back in the day, man, you didn't have to do things intentionally. Like from day one that you could walk, it was a hard way to go. But it's so different now, like that's why people are struggling so bad, man, is because they don't get the intentional reps in throughout their life when things are easy. And then when hard comes, it just destroys them, Mm-hmm. What weird times we're living in.
Yeah, I've never heard it articulated like that, but that is a perfect example. I think that's a fantastic example of, we probably did this. We had to get on with it. Like if we lost a child or a loved one, of course there'd be pain, but we've got to eat, we've got to survive, we've still got to, the camp's got to eat, whatever it is. I think you see similar in the animal kingdom still to this day. Like, animals face probably a tougher life than we. They're exposed, like you say, exposed to the elements, their survival. Some of them are eating each other, and if they lose a loved one or a companion or whatever it is, they've just got to crack on. It's that animal instinct. And I think we had to do that. Like, that's just what it had to be. Otherwise, you'd die. Like, you would die. And today we have this safety net of comfort zone, and I don't think people, I don't think people are prepared for the blind side, which I think is just where we end up with the, mental health crisis and suicide rates and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Like, when it hits, it's just straight into turmoil. Not even, like you say, there's no redos. If you don't have the tools and you're not equipped, it happens quite quickly.
Yeah.
Which is sad.
We don't have community either. That's another big difference between how man used to live and how man was created to live to how we live now. We don't have a true sense of community. Like, we're relying on each other as this unit to actually survive, and that's one of the most beautiful things about the training missions that we run. When I take a team out and I put them in a really stressful situation to the point that they have to genuinely rely on each other in order to keep moving. And for a lot of people, they're experiencing that for the first time in their lives. And it's like, it feels so good. It feels so good to be a part of this community of people that becomes this single organism that's every member is reliant on the other member and everyone's serving each other. And it just becomes this single organism, and then they become unstoppable. It's like, when a human being experiences that for the first time too, it's like a total game changer for them, But again, we don't have that in built into our society because of the modern comforts. We can just live our own individual lives.
I hope you're enjoying this episode with Chad Wright so far. If you want to see an extended cut of this interview, because we couldn't get absolutely everything in there, from the conversations in his car to his lounge to the morning coffee talks, find them all at Patreon down below. Use the link in the description for exclusive benefits right now, where you can get behind the scenes, extended editions, early access, ad-free content, and much, much more with the link down below. Thank you, Patreon community, for making this possible. We could not fly our film crew around the world and make this happen without your support. Let's dive back into the episode.
Outside of the groups, would you advise people to find community? How would they go about that?
You have to, this is a great question, to find community or to find mentors. Mentors have been so important to me in my life. I talked about one just a minute ago, Jesse Itzler, but there have been many more, right? Frank Cutler was my SEAL mentor. Jake Hubman was my Sea Daddy when I got to the SEAL team. Like, so many mentors along the way. To find those mentors, people are like, oh, well, I can't find those people. I can't find the people that I'm looking for to help me through this journey I'm on. It's like, you have to put yourself in the places where they are. But to find the right community, you have to put yourself in the place where that community you're searching for already is, right? They're not going to come to you. Mentors aren't going to come to you. The community's not going to come to you. But the reason people don't want to go and put themselves in these environments where they're going to find mentors, they're going to find people who are better than they are, who can help them along, they're going to find the right community. The reason people don't want to go and put themselves in those, basically in those environments, is because when you walk into that environment, you are not going to feel like you belong. And people don't want that. They don't want to walk into an environment where they don't feel like they belong, where they feel like everyone around them is better than them. And indeed, everyone around them is better than them. They feel unprepared. They basically feel like fools, right? People don't want to do that. They don't want to change their environment. We want an environment in life because, again, our default is comfort, homeostasis. We want our environment to be a bunch of people who are just like we are. That's what we want it to be, because if we stay in that environment, there's going to be nobody there that can call you out or call you up. And so that's where most people stay their whole life. They surround themselves with people who are just like they are. If your business is the same size as my business, I don't want to talk business with you. If you run the same pace as I run, I don't want to run with you. I don't. Like, that's not the environment I want to be in. I learned this at such a young age, man. How did I find this SEAL mentor, Frank Cutler, the first mentor I ever had as a young man? I had to take a swimming test to become a SEAL. I couldn't swim. Okay. How do you think I felt walking into an aquatic center to take a swimming test knowing I couldn't swim? I felt like an idiot. I felt like a fool. But I would have never become a good swimmer. I would have never become a SEAL if I wouldn't have walked into this place to attempt to do something that I knew I was going to fail at, and I was going to fail at it in front of people who were better than me. And I kept going back there week after week, failing this swimming test. It took me months just to get a contract to join the Navy. I kept going back week after week after week. Every time I walked in that place, I felt like an idiot. I'm going to be the guy splashing around in this pool, freaking throwing up, having to stand up because I can't make it one lap across this pool. But I just kept showing up, even though I knew I knew I didn't belong there. But I had to become the person who did belong there. You know what I mean? And so that's how you find these people. That's how you find these mentors. You are going to have to go and walk up in somewhere, whether it's the start line of a 5K, the start line of a 100-mile race, the start line of whatever. Maybe it's a coaching program for business where you're surrounded by entrepreneurs who have been doing it for years. And my first business entrepreneur was Jesse Itzler. He's one of the best entrepreneurs in the country. Jesse called me up one day. He hit me up on Instagram and asked me if I would come and coach him on how to run. Jesse later became my business mentor. But you know how stupid I felt and probably looked talking to Jesse Itzler about business when I had never had a business before. But I was okay with that. You know what I mean? I was okay with that. Sure. I accepted this dude is way up here. I'm way down here. But I'm gonna walk up into his space. And that's the only way that I'm going to figure out the path, you know?
That advice is fantastic, putting yourself in those rooms. It's interesting, this has been a path for myself for the last year or so, getting in the rooms with film producers and filmmakers, and I just feel like the biggest idiot ever. But it's helped me massively having those conversations. I wouldn't say I've picked up a mentor, so I'm curious as when you was finally in that room with Jesse, maybe the conversation around your business has sparked a little bit. How do you go, could you be my mentor? What is there a sentence? Does it happen organically?
I think when you walk into that space, you have to bring whatever it is you have to offer. Even if that's taking out the trash, or filling the water cup, or doing the dish, no matter how, you have to be willing to bring something to the table in that environment, right? And so the only thing I had to offer to Jesse was teaching him basically how to run further. And so that's what I brought to him. It's he was getting ready, he was preparing for a 100-miler. He was stuck at he couldn't run further than, I think, 30 miles. He was like, dude, I just have this mental block, And so he hit me up on Instagram. He said, will you come out? Well, I didn't know back then that people paid people to coach. I had no idea. I was a pretty good runner. I'd won some races. Enough for him to have found me on Instagram and reached out to me. Well, I said, yeah, I'll come out. So I gave him what I had to offer. I gave it to him for free. I didn't expect anything in return. I flew out to his place. I spent the weekend with him. He thought I was going to change his stride and tell him to wear a different pair of shoes. All I did was say, hey man, we're going to go out here and run every hour. We're going to share something with each other we're thankful for. You're not allowed to speak anything negative, which means you have to stop cussing. Jesse's from New York. That was hard. No cussing, no negative. And I don't care how bad your body hurts. You have to say, I feel outstanding if I ask you how you're doing. That was the only rules of the run. We ran 50 miles that day. So he went from being stuck at 30 to running 50 with those tools, right? So I was willing to go out of my way on my own expense to give him what it was I had to offer. And when you do that, like these people who see that, who you want as your mentors, like then they're going to want to help you then. And at that point, all right, Jesse, I gave you everything I had, man, and it worked. I'm glad I could help you. Well, at that point, he did everything that he could possibly do to make me successful.
Wow.
I remember shortly after that, he called me, he taught me about branding, he taught me about social media, taught me all this stuff, and he calls me up one day and he says, hey Chad, I want to take you out to see some friends in California. He said, but I want to warn you, if I take you out here, your life's never going to be the same after this. And that's when we went out and did Rich Roll and Lewis House. Rich Roll didn't invite me on his podcast. Jesse Isler made a phone call to Rich Roll and said, hey, I just went out running with this guy and I want you to interview him. Same with Lewis House. Lewis House didn't invite me out on his podcast. That was all Jesse. I said, all right, let's go out here. We get on a private jet, fly out there. He exposes me to a whole different existence. And he's helped me ever since. He just gave me advice yesterday. I told you we were out on a run yesterday. He's still giving me advice on how to keep going. He's a master, dude. But that's how I found that mentor, is like getting out, being a part of the running community, doing something hard. I'm already doing that. And then being willing to give what it is I can offer away for free.
Okay. So, I mean, you need to be of value. Like, you have to be of value.
Everybody has something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that is it, exposing yourself to it. I think the biggest step, especially, I think you find myself and young men of my generation, is that the ego can get in the way, and letting go of I'm the best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah.
You know, and realizing that there's millions of people better than you, and you need to be able to understand that. And I think I can't remember if it was which podcast it was, but I heard you say that about being the smartest person in the room. And it's not a good place to be. And I think a lot of people strive to be the smartest person in the room because it's comfortable. But it's not where growth is. You're not going to grow if you haven't got people around you who can teach you.
100%, man. And here's the thing, even if you do wind up one day being the smartest person in the room, you don't want anybody to know about it. That's another
Speak to that, because
tactical thing.
Yeah, I was
right?
about to say, you did that when you was in training. You did that with the
running.
Run, yeah. How come you held on to that card?
I mean, so a lot of your viewers, especially overseas, are going to be hearing this accent, this Southern accent. In America, if you have an accent like this, people automatically assume you're dumb. Okay? So I've played that to my advantage my whole life. The reason you hold on to that card is because people in general have a lot of pride and a lot of jealousy. And if they know you're the best person in the room, a lot of them, instead of wanting to learn from you, they're going to get jealous of you. They're going to see you as a threat. They're going to try to go around behind your back and undercut you in some way, shape, or form. They're going to try to take you out of the equation because the very fact that you are there makes them look worse. So they want you to go away, right? So it's a tactical decision to never show all your cards, for instance. And specifically in SEAL training, why would you stay middle of the pack? Because I needed to be able to perform consistently. Consistency is one of the most important things in life. And I knew I needed to be able to perform consistently over the course of 6 months. And so if I was out front on most of these runs, but then one day I was sick, or I had shin splints, or I had some tweak or pulled a muscle, and I wasn't able to be out front, the instructors would think that I was just being lazy. They're not going to hear my story about, oh, no, I'm actually sick today. They don't care. All they care about is, I know you're usually out front. You're not out front today, so you must be sandbagging it. You're just being a turd today, and they're gonna punish you for that. And so then it just piles on, right? It just piles on. And so I just wanted to be consistent. I wanted to maintain a pace that I knew I could maintain on my worst day, right? That takes discipline, though, when you're feeling good, and it takes a lot of discipline not to show out, and that's the reason specifically we do it in SEAL training.
To your career now, how do you balance that? How do you balance when you do need to talk about your accolades, like you do need to talk about some of the things you've achieved to give substance to the word that you're speaking? Like, do you have to do that today? Like, say, I completed this race, or I did this, or do you find it just kind of speaks for itself?
No, I mean, you do have to establish credibility. Like, I think sometimes I'm gonna tell you, even today, I'm not, this wasn't you today, but some people can go too hard into the whole humility thing, right? Like if you've done something, if you've done something hard, or something that not many people have done, like it's okay to share that now, because especially in the business we're in, like you need to establish credibility with the people who are watching this film right now. You know what I mean? But even like you today, when we were talking about the long run you did, and you were like, yeah, I did this little 400-mile run, and like, you just kind of didn't really make much of it. Like, I would like to see you make a little bigger deal out of that.
I don't.
You know what I'm saying? You can get carried away with it, definitely. But like, dude, like,
I don't know how, that's, I wish I'd asked you on the podcast, and guess what, you can maybe resolve it now, is that I don't know how to do it. Like, I genuinely don't know how to share that unless it's from somebody else's perspective. I said, like Devon picked it up through a friend of a friend. Like, it wasn't like I'd put anything out there and like I said, the fundraising didn't go that great. It's like, there's something anti in me for going, oh, I'm doing this, or so it's I don't know how to do it. And I think it's very important, like you say, you have to prove credibility, especially in the business we're in. It's super important. I'm fortunate that I get to interview guests like you all the time. But so you have credibility, and they will listen to your message, so the message is shared still. But my story and my credibility, that's something I really struggle with. Never understood how to work that.
Yeah. Well, I guess ultimately you have to accept the fact that story, like, it's not even really about you. Like, that there's so much more purpose to that story than just you, right? So like, that's the reason to share it. Like, that's the reason not to hold back on it. Like, it's like, hey, let me tell you about this really hard thing that I was able to do, not because I want you to praise me, but because I want to share with you what I learned in the process of that. Like, that's kind of how to share it without being arrogant. It's all about what, like, what's in your heart? Like, why do you really want to tell someone about this thing that you did? Because you truly believe that there's value there for them? Like, I believe that's why you would want to tell people about the thing that you did. Like, I've spent enough time with you that I know you're not going to talk about that because you want a pat on the back. Like, you have to talk about that now. Like, you have to. It would be a disservice to humanity if you didn't talk about that. Like, you would be failing if you didn't talk about that. And talk about it in a real way. Like, yeah, this was legit. Like, let me tell you what I learned, you know?
Yeah, I'll take that advice on board. Like, I truly will. The one thing I wanted to capture, because we captured such beautiful footage of you running, when you're in like that savage mode and you're on a trail and it's super primal, have you got like an internal mantra that you're going through? Like, what's the things that you're telling yourself?
The number one thing that I have to tell myself over and over again, especially when it starts to get really hard, is stay present. That's the number one thing I'm telling myself. Is like, I will speak that out loud to myself. If I'm always conscious of my mind. And so in a perfect world, my mind is completely blank. And I essentially am just like become a metronome, like no emotion, no good or bad. Like, my mind is just blank, and there's relaxation in that, by the way. Like, I'm trying to conserve every ounce of energy mentally and physically that I possibly can. But I'm checking in with my mind, and if I notice that it's going somewhere that it doesn't need to go, I will tell myself, no, stay present. Stay present. Focus on now. Focus on what's the next step, right? You know, there aren't really a lot of things that per se motivate me during a run or something. Now, there are plenty of clips that I've listened to that you guys have recorded and that other people have recorded from other amazing people that I'll listen to like on a bad day, and it'll be what I needed to hear, you know what I mean? And it'll pick me up, you know? But while I'm running, like, I don't do music. There is one mantra that I did use, and I have to share this one with you because it was very powerful for me. It's like the one. And I used it when we did the treadmill race for my friend David Charbonnet. David had he was running a nonprofit clinic that helped people with spinal cord injuries. And David, my friend that I went through SEAL training with, is paralyzed from the waist down. And we did a fundraiser for him where Chili and I ran on true form treadmills for 24 straight hours. So no motor. You have to propel it with your own legs for 24 straight hours. I wrote on a piece of tape, a piece of duct tape, and taped it to that treadmill, for those who can't. Because I'm doing this run to raise money for these people who can't use their legs anymore. And I'm sitting here watching my buddy David. He's there in his wheelchair, and I'm up here running. And even though 24 hours on that dang treadmill hurt bad, and it was miserable, like nothing to look at, right? But like, I'm looking at him and I'm like, he would love to be able to be up here running right now. And so that was a mantra that was extremely impactful to me. And I still do use it to this day. Man, on those days where it's hard to get up, it's hard to get moving, I do use this mantra. I'm so glad you pulled this out of me. Because, you know, sometimes you use these things and you don't even realize it. But you get up, man. You don't want to get out. You don't want to get out and run. You don't want to get up and get moving. But you think about those who can't. Like, that's such a perspective shift. And especially if you have someone in your life who can't. right? They're sick, they're injured, they're paralyzed, they're elderly. Like, they can't go out here and run up the mountain. You know, and that does drive me a lot. I'm so glad you pulled that out of me, because yeah, my default answer would have been nothing, but that one's there.
I'm just thinking, like, there was a few things that you'd said that was the most powerful, but there was a few other things that you said I guess you've used along the way that you might have forgot about, like don't die in the chair, the 1 mile out theory, or that's a really interesting one to me, because I spoke about this on the run every single day. It didn't matter if I was doing a 70 mile a day or a 40 mile a day or a 30 mile a day, whatever it was, the final mile would kill me. Like, it'd be so tough. And on the 480 miles, the final mile to Jacob was by far the toughest. Like, I just never felt so much pain in my life. But I always thought that it was super arbitrary. And if I had set that goal to have been 1,000 miles, it would have been 999 miles that was the toughest. And I would have breezed past 485.
Yep.
So like the mind, how powerful the mind is as a tool, I just think is so incredible. It's those things that I think I love to hear from ultra athletes. And when I maybe unconsciously talk about them in the docs and stuff quite a bit.
Yeah, there's just been so many evolutions. There's been so many evolutions of things that I've had to use to get me. I forget a lot of this stuff. Like to get me through this specific thing. Like, yeah, there's been so many evolutions of that. You know, it's so great to sit down and remember them and capture them on film, and they're all true. Like, they all worked. To get me through that thing, man. Like the 1 mile out thing, it's like most anything you do, you're going to go through 98% of the thing, and you're really only going to grow the last 2%. Like, it takes, and the better you get, the longer it takes to get to that point that you're truly growing. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So that's why the last mile is always the hardest, is because you did all that for this last little bit.
So many people fail in that last mile, which people can't even comprehend. They don't understand. And these guys, we were back in Nottingham. I was back in my hometown. I had to make it another 3 miles to Jacob, and the pace just got incredibly slow. The last mile, these guys follow me along. At one point, they didn't know that was my lowest moment of like, I don't know if I can still do this. Like, I'm so close. And then this is the bit I really like about what you said about the last mile, was that last mile you finish your strongest, and you must make a point of pushing through so hard, which again, incidentally, was like where the strength came from for me, where I just started powering up the hill and it all came back to me. But there's like a point where you really do have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Why is it important to finish strong through the mile?
Again, because you've put in so much work, like, to get to that last mile. And if you don't push through that and finish strong, like, you're cheating yourself essentially. Like, that's your grand opportunity, right? That last mile is your grand opportunity. That's your grand opportunity to leave everything that you have on that course. You know, and if you don't, first of all, you need to anticipate it. It's coming. And when it gets there, you need to be ready for it, and you need to make that decision to finish strong through that last mile, because that's where you're growing. That's the pivotal moment. You know, that's why you were able to get to the end of your journey and say it is finished. It's because you pushed through that last mile properly. You know, it's all for that. You know?
There's been so many sound bites from this, like so much great quotes, and I think people are going to pick up on so much stuff. But I hate to boil it down to this. We have a Patreon community that always asks a question throughout an interview. I think you guys have a Patreon community.
Yeah, we do.
Right?
Yeah.
And they want to know what your favorite quote is.
Well, Well, you might. It's for me personally. Like I can think of all these different motivational quotes and stuff like this, but my personal favorite quote that means the most to me comes from the Bible, and it is a quote I shared earlier. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son. Like, that is just the quote that is the foundation of my hope, the foundation of my purpose, the foundation of my marriage, my entire life's mission. Like, it's the biggest gift that we could have ever received as humanity. And so, yeah, it has to come from Scripture.
That's a perfect little note to end on. Where's the best people can follow up? So you've got if you were to direct somebody, would it be to 3 of 7?
Yeah, I would just say 3of7project.com.
And can people, I know you said there's application spots available and stuff like that where you have to submit an application. Are there spots available, or is there an application process open at the moment where viewers could join up and follow along?
Well, it depends on when this comes out, but that kind of fluctuates. I don't know if there's anything left open for this year, 2025, I guess it is, but that is all updated in real time on the website. So if any of you guys watching want to come out and do a training mission with me and my team, check it out on the website. If there's something available, the dates and everything will be listed there with instructions on how to submit an application.
The last time we did that, the guy who ran the course was at the Shaolin Temple was overwhelmed. They had to open up more dates. So if we have quite an active community of like people want to better themselves. So I really think if you are out there, guys, you're listening, go follow it up, see if there's something available on the website. And if not, have some patience, tune into the website, and I'm sure something will come up at some point.
Yeah, for sure. Lord willing. Thank you, brother.
Amazing. Everything's linked down below, guys. Hey, thank you so much. That was incredible.